All right, so we're diving into the story of Henry J. Kaiser.
Oh, yeah, this guy.
This guy really helped shape the modern American West. We're talking
Big time.
dams, ships, health,
Healthcare. Wow.
even a little bit of Hollywood.
He was everywhere.
Yeah, this guy was all over the place. I
Yeah.
mean, it's remarkable how his vision extended beyond just construction.
I think you're right. He had an understanding of how all these different industries, they could all work together. They could contribute to, like, a bigger vision of progress.
Yeah. And we've got so much to unpack here.
I know, right?
Articles, biographical snippets, even some personal stories from people who knew him.
Yeah.
And it's clear that this is more than just a biography.
Oh, for sure.
It's really like a glimpse into this really pivotal moment in American
I
history.
think that's a great way to put it. Kaiser's career, it tracks with this period of intense growth and change in the American West. Like, he wasn't just building projects.
He was building the future.
Exactly.
So, okay, let's go back to the beginning. Kaiser's early life is pretty striking. Quitting school at 13 during a national depression to make his own way. I mean, talk about a leap of faith.
It makes you wonder what kind of environment shapes someone like that, you know? His family, they weren't wealthy, and seeing those economic struggles firsthand, I think it might have fueled his ambition.
To create something lasting.
Yeah, something stable.
He's like, I'm going to make my own security. But it wasn't like a straight shot to the top, right?
No, not at all.
He bounces around, photography, selling sporting goods
Road construction even.
before he hits it big. But what's so interesting is every experience he has, it adds to his skill set.
That's such a key point, I think. It wasn't just luck. This guy was constantly learning. He's honing his salesmanship, learning how to manage people. He's developing this, like, eye for opportunity.
And it's all groundwork for his success later on.
In construction, yeah.
Then there's a story about him jumping off a moving train to secure a construction bid.
Oh, come on. It sounds like a movie.
It really does.
So he and his associate, Ordway.
They're on their way to this meeting in San Francisco, but they hear that their train won't stop in Reading,
Oh, no.
which is where they need to be to evaluate a road project.
So they jump off the train.
They jump off the
I
train.
can't even imagine.
They dust themselves off.
Unbelievable.
They inspect the site, and they end up submitting the winning bid
Get out of here.
for $500,000.
That is just wild. That story, I know it's dramatic, but it illustrates something, you know? Like a core aspect of his success. He inspired this fierce loyalty in his team.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about the money, it was this belief, like this shared belief in achieving something remarkable.
I mean, he wasn't just a leader.
He was a force of nature.
He pulled people along with this crazy energy. So we see the ambition, the risk-taking, the team building. But how does he go from road construction to builder of the modern American West?
Well, that's where the dam projects come in, right? These massive undertakings like the Hoover Dam.
Grand Coulee Dam.
Yeah. These projects were huge, unlike anything that had been seen before, and they changed everything, you know? They altered the landscape, they altered the industrial capacity of the West.
We're talking about projects that needed more concrete than all the federal dam projects before combined.
It's hard to even imagine.
How do you even wrap your head around that?
Well, it shows you the scale of Kaiser's vision, but also his innovative approach. You take the Hoover Dam, for instance. I mean, they had insane logistical challenges. They had to come up with completely new techniques just to transport the concrete.
And then pour it.
Yeah. They even built, like, a giant refrigeration plant.
Really?
Just to cool the concrete and keep it from cracking.
Now, this wasn't just pouring concrete. This was pushing the boundaries of engineering
Construction. Yeah.
and construction.
And we can't forget the human element, right? I mean, the working conditions were rough and all those workers looking for jobs. It created a whole bunch of social and economic complexities in those communities.
Right. You don't always think about that.
Yeah.
Progress, even on a big scale, it's not without its costs.
That's true. Kaiser, he pushed for fair wages and safety measures. But these projects were so big, there were going to be challenges, you know, and risks you couldn't avoid.
There's that strategy he had at the Grand Coulee Dam. He called it cutting the dam in half.
What did he do?
He created two crews
Oh, wow.
working on opposite sides of the dam, and he basically made them compete.
To see who could finish first.
Yeah, and it boosted productivity.
That's fascinating.
It's a really fascinating example of his leadership, right?
For sure.
He understood that a little friendly rivalry,
Gets things done.
it could really boost productivity, create a sense of ownership among the workers. But it wasn't just a one-time thing. He used this same approach later on when he gets into shipbuilding during World War II. And again, it works.
So he's taming wild rivers with these monumental dams, and then he's taking those lessons and applying them to building ships, and at an insane pace, during wartime. His impact on the West is just undeniable.
And Kaiser, of course, he wasn't done yet. He had bigger ambitions. He even ventured into challenging established industries like steel.
And that's a whole other story, right? From concrete to steel.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see how his vision, his drive, leads him to take on even bigger challenges and really just reshape the American landscape.
So we left off with Kaiser. He's, conquered these monumental dam projects.
Yeah. Dams, ships.
Revolutionized shipbuilding during the war.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the type to rest on his laurels, right?
No, not at all.
He's like, okay, what's next?
Mhm.
And next up, tackling the steel industry.
Which is huge.
Huge, yeah.
And this wasn't just about him expanding his empire. It was strategic.
Right.
Kaiser knew the West Coast depended on those eastern steel mills.
And that's a vulnerability, especially during wartime.
Totally. He wanted a more self-sufficient West, and for him, that meant a major steel mill right here in California.
But this wasn't just some, small undertaking. This was taking on the giants.
Oh, yeah. These are the big guys.
The established players who had controlled the market for decades.
For decades.
And a lot of experts, they were pretty skeptical. They said California, there's no way it could support a steel mill that big.
Yeah, they were saying the logistics were impossible, the cost was just way too high.
Kaiser's in over his head.
Classic.
But that skepticism, it seemed to fuel his determination. He got the funding, built that Fontana mill.
And get this, he started producing steel plates months ahead of schedule.
Why?
Even beat out a government-backed mill over in Utah.
So he proved the doubters wrong.
He did?
And he did it faster.
And cheaper.
And more efficiently than anyone thought possible.
Classic Kaiser.
It really is. It just shows he was able to not only envision the future, but to rally people around that vision.
He got people excited about it.
Yeah. He inspired his team to push boundaries, to innovate.
And deliver, right.
Deliver results that defied expectations. But this drive to modernize, it wasn't limited to steel.
No, he was all over the place.
It's like he had this appetite.
For taking on new challenges.
He had to keep pushing it. Automobiles. He was constantly exploring new industries.
It's like he saw all these different industries as pieces of a larger puzzle,
Yeah.
The success of one venture fueled the next one, and it created this, interconnected web of progress.
And transformed the West Coast.
It did.
Like his foray into the auto industry with Kaiser Fraser.
Oh, yeah, Kaiser Fraser.
And head-to-head with Ford, General Motors.
He gave them a run for their money.
He did for a while.
Yeah.
Kaiser Fraser cars, they were known for their innovative designs.
They were sleek, stylish.
And they were affordable. They appealed to a whole new generation of car buyers.
But ultimately, he couldn't compete with the scale and the marketing power of the big three, right?
That's right. It's a good reminder that even visionaries like Kaiser, they face limitations.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
But even in those setbacks, there are lessons.
There are always
valuable lessons. Kaiser, he never stopped innovating. Even when he was facing fierce competition, he pushed his team, developed new technologies, explored new approaches to manufacturing.
And those lessons, they often found their way into his other ventures.
Yeah, they did. Okay, so we've seen Kaiser the builder,
the innovator,
the industrialist.
Yeah.
But what about Kaiser the leader?
That's a big question.
What made his style so unique? And how did he manage to inspire so much loyalty?
And get those incredible results.
It's amazing.
Well, what became known as the Kaiser way, it was this mix of demanding expectations and genuine inspiration.
Yeah.
He had this knack for finding talent
Yeah.
and pushing people
Up.
to their absolute limits.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to just pile work on his key employees.
It sounds pretty intense.
Oh, it was. But he wasn't trying to break them. He was trying to, refine them.
Getting been better.
Yeah, forge them into the best versions of themselves.
So it worked.
It did.
He put together this incredible team
Talented, dedicated.
who stuck with him for decades.
They weren't just employees.
They were partners.
They were partners in this grand vision of progress.
And it wasn't just about the work, right?
No, I think Kaiser genuinely cared about his employees.
And their families.
Their well-being, yeah. He was a big advocate for fair wages, safe working conditions.
Even healthcare benefits.
Which was pretty unusual back then.
It really was. It wasn't just about building empires. It was about building a better world.
For the people who were building those empires with him.
That's such a good point. And that brings us to one of the most interesting parts of Kaiser's legacy.
Which is?
The Kaiser Permanente medical care program.
That's huge.
It's this connection between his industrial drive and his social conscience.
I see it.
It wasn't just about dams and ships. It was about taking care of the people who were building those things.
It all started with the Grand Coulee Dam.
It did. He partnered with Dr. Sidney Garfield
Okay.
to create this prepaid healthcare plan for the workers.
I bet the medical establishment loved that.
Oh, they pushed back
I bet.
hard, but they stuck with it.
They did.
And it's amazing to think that this small initiative
Born out of necessity.
during this massive construction project
Yeah.
would eventually turn into the Kaiser Permanente Health Plan, a model for HMOs today.
It's incredible. Kaiser's vision, this unwavering belief that everyone deserves healthcare. He wasn't afraid to shake things up, even in a tough industry like healthcare.
So we see this through line, from dams to ships to steel mills to healthcare, this constant drive not only to build things, but to build systems,
To improve lives.
to create a lasting impact.
Yeah.
And that's what sets him apart, right?
Yeah. He wasn't just building buildings and structures.
He was building institutions.
Systems that have shaped how we live and work.
Even today, we've seen how Henry J. Kaiser, built dams, revolutionized shipbuilding,
Okay.
took on the steel industry. But I think it's interesting how he seemed to understand that building a legacy, it's not just about concrete and steel, it's about how people see you.
Yeah, he knew about public image. He went from nobody to national celebrity practically overnight.
He did.
It wasn't an accident either. It was strategic.
So he was building his brand at the same time that he was building all these projects.
Exactly. Kaiser knew public perception, it could make or break his plans. So he built relationships with journalists.
Gave speeches.
Yeah, he was a good speaker. And he'd stage these big events.
To control the narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that idea, he had to build a fleet of 5,000 cargo planes.
5,000.
And he unveils this idea at a shipyard in Portland. Maximum exposure.
Smart. And it made him look like a visionary.
It did.
The cargo plane idea, it never actually happened, but it made people think of Kaiser as a leader.
Who thought big?
Yeah, a guy who dared to dream big and challenge the status quo. But being so famous...
It has its downsides.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It brought scrutiny, too.
Oh, yeah.
Some of his partners felt like he was pushing them aside
And people criticized him.
for being too cozy with the government.
It's the double-edged sword, right? Fame opens doors, but it also makes you a target. It's amazing he was able to navigate all of that.
So how did he handle the political stuff, the backlash?
He was smart. He built a good team of advisors and publicists.
And they helped him change his message when he needed to.
Yeah, to handle those criticisms.
He was a fighter, too,
Yeah.
like when he clashed with the American Medical Association over his healthcare plan.
Oh, yeah. He was going up against a powerful group there.
He did, but he stood his ground. He really believed in Kaiser Permanente.
He did, even when it meant making some enemies.
And then there's that whole saga with Howard Hughes.
Oh, the Spruce Goose.
The Spruce Goose, yeah.
Yeah.
That partnership, it seemed like it was doomed from the start.
Two big personalities, right? Kaiser, the builder,
Hughes, the eccentric genius.
trying to build this massive wooden airplane.
It's wild. Delays,
Cost overruns.
personality clashes.
It makes you wonder how they got anything done at all.
It does. But even in all that chaos, you see Kaiser's leadership.
He knew how to delegate. He focused on the money, on managing public perception.
Keeping the project moving forward.
He did. The Spruce Goose, it was an amazing feat of engineering.
It was. But it only flew once.
And it never really did what it was supposed to do. Nope. But it became this symbol of Kaiser's ambition.
And it shows his resilience too, right? Even after a very public setback like that.
Yeah, he didn't let it stop him. He learned from it.
Kept going.
So after this deep dive into Henry J. Kaiser's life, what are the takeaways? What did we learn about leadership from this guy?
Well, first, I think the power of vision. He could see things other people couldn't.
And he went after them?
He didn't give up. And the importance of building a strong team.
You can't do it alone.
You can't. And he recognized that. You need to surround yourself with talented people who share your goals.
That's so important.
And maybe most importantly, perseverance.
He hit so many roadblocks.
He did, but he never gave up. He learned from his mistakes, adapted, and just kept pushing forward.
That's inspiring.
It is. Henry J. Kaiser, he was a man of contradictions.
Demanding but inspiring.
A visionary who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. His impact is undeniable.
He really left his mark.
He did. His story, it's a reminder that even in the face of, incredible challenges, one person can make a real difference.
Yeah. If you've got the vision, the drive, and you're willing to put in the work,
You can achieve amazing things.
you really can. So what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
What mountains are you going to move?
What industries are you going to transform?
And what kind of leader will you choose to be? Yeah, something to think about.